Have you ever felt like your home wasn't yours? Like something else was watching you, lurking in the shadows? Welcome to 1313 Elm Street, where everyday life takes a terrifying turn. Are you brave enough to face your fears? Are you ready to discover the truth about 1313 Elm Street? Then stay with us and prepare to be haunted. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more chilling tales of the unknown. Hit that like button if you dare, and share your own experiences with the unexplained in the comments below. You might not be alone. The Haunting of 1313 Elm Street. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the quiet suburban street. Sarah, a young woman in her 20s, was returning home from work, her heart pounding with anticipation. She had just landed a new job, and she was excited to celebrate with her family. As she approached her house, a feeling of unease washed over her. The house, a two-story colonial with white trim and a neatly manicured lawn, looked different somehow. It was as if it had been watching her, waiting for her return. Sarah unlocked the front door and stepped inside, the air heavy with a strange, musty scent. The house was silent, eerily silent. No sound of the television, no clatter of dishes, no laughter from her family. She called out, but her voice echoed through the empty house. She walked from room to room, her heart pounding faster with each step. The house was empty. A chill ran down her spine. She felt like she was being watched, but there was no one there. She tried to call her family, but her phone was dead. She was trapped. Suddenly, she heard a noise from upstairs. A creak, a whisper, a soft thud. She slowly made her way up the stairs. The second floor was even more unsettling than the first. The furniture was covered in dust sheets, and cobwebs hung from the ceiling. The air was thick with a strange metallic smell. Sarah reached the top of the stairs and saw a light coming from the master bedroom. She cautiously opened the door and stepped inside. The room was empty, except for a figure standing in the corner. It was a tall, thin figure with long, white hair and glowing red eyes. It was wearing a white gown that was stained with blood. Sarah screamed and ran out of the room, slamming the door behind her. She raced down the stairs, her heart pounding in her chest. She reached the front door and threw it open, running out into the night. She didn't stop running until she reached her neighbor's house. She banged on the door, her hands shaking. Her neighbor, Mrs. Johnson, opened the door, her face full of concern. "Sarah, what's wrong?" Sarah burst into tears, her body shaking. "I think my house is haunted," she sobbed. Mrs. Johnson put her arm around Sarah and led her inside. She made Sarah a cup of tea and listened to her story. When Sarah finished, Mrs. Johnson said, "I'm not surprised. I've heard stories about that house. It's been empty for years, and people say they've seen strange things happening there." Sarah's eyes widened. "What kind of things?" Mrs. Johnson hesitated. "Well, people have seen lights flickering in the windows at night. They've heard noise coming from the house, even when no one is there. And some people have even seen a figure standing at the window, watching them." Sarah's heart pounded. "What figure?" Mrs. Johnson took a deep breath. A tall, thin figure with long, white hair and glowing red eyes. Sarah's blood ran cold. "That's the same figure I saw." Mrs. Johnson nodded. "I'm not surprised. I think that house is haunted by a ghost. and I think that ghost is trying to get your attention." Sarah's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" Mrs. Johnson took a sip of her tea. "I think the ghost is trying to tell you something. It's trying to warn you about something." Sarah's heart pounded. "What is it trying to warn me about?" Mrs. Johnson shook her head. "I don't know, but I think you need to find out." Sarah nodded. She knew she had to go back to the house. She had to face her fears and find out what the ghost was trying to tell her. She returned to her house the next day, armed with a flashlight and a camera. She crept through the house, her heart pounding with fear. She reached the master bedroom and opened the door. The room was empty, but the air was thick with a strange, metallic smell. She heard a noise from behind her and turned around. The figure was standing there, its eyes glowing red. It raised its hand, and Sarah felt a cold chill run down her spine. The figure spoke, its voice low and raspy. "You need to leave." Sarah's heart pounded. "Why?" The figure didn't answer. It turned and walked out of the room, its footsteps echoing through the empty house. Sarah stood there, frozen in fear. She didn't know what to do. She wanted to run, but she couldn't move. Suddenly, she heard a noise from downstairs. She turned and saw a light flickering in the living room. She slowly made her way downstairs, her heart pounding in her chest. She reached the living room and saw a figure standing in the window. It was a woman, young and beautiful, with long, flowing hair. She was wearing a white dress and a wreath of flowers in her hair. The woman smiled at Sarah and waved. Sarah felt a wave of warmth wash over her. The woman turned and walked out of the room, disappearing into the darkness. Sarah stood there, stunned. She didn't know what to make of what she had just seen. She went back upstairs and packed her things. She was leaving the house, and she wasn't going back. She never saw the figure again, but she never forgot the feeling of being watched. She never forgot the feeling of being alone in the dark, and she never forgot the feeling of being haunted. Act 2. Unraveling the Past. Sarah, now staying at a local motel, couldn't shake the image of the woman in white from her mind. The encounter, though brief, felt significant, a stark contrast to the menacing presence of the other figure. She decided to delve into the history of her house, hoping to find some answers. The town's historical society proved to be a treasure trove of information. The house at 1313 Elm Street, she learned, had a long and troubled past. Built in the late 1800s, it had seen numerous families come and go, each leaving behind whispers of misfortune. One name, however, stood out: Eliza Maywood. Eliza, the records revealed, was a young woman who had lived in the house in the early 1900s. She was described as beautiful and kind, but her life was tragically cut short. According to the town's archives, Eliza had died under mysterious circumstances. Her death ruled an accident, though rumors of foul play had persisted. Sarah found an old photograph of Eliza, the woman in white. The resemblance was uncanny. Sarah felt a chill, realizing the connection between the apparition and the house history. But who was the other figure, the menacing presence with red eyes? Returning to the motel, Sarah began to experience strange occurrences. Objects would move on their own, whispers echoed through the room, and the air grew cold, even in the summer heat. She felt a constant sense of dread, as if something was watching her, waiting for her to return to the house. One night, Sarah had a vivid dream. She was back in the house, standing in the master bedroom. Eliza appeared, her form translucent, her eyes filled with sorrow. She reached out to Sarah, her touch cold as ice. "He won't let me rest," Eliza whispered, her voice barely audible. "He wants what's mine." The dream shifted, and Sarah found herself in a dark, damp cellar beneath the house. The menacing figure with red eyes stood before her, its form more solid, more terrifying than before. It held a dark, ornate box, its surface etched with strange symbols. "He stole it from me," Eliza's voice echoed, filled with anguish. "He trapped me here, bound to this place." Sarah woke with a start, her heart pounding. The dream felt too real, too vivid. She knew what she had to do. She had to return to the house, find the box, and help Eliza break free. Armed with her newfound knowledge and a sense of determination, Sarah returned to 1313 Elm Street. The house felt colder, more oppressive than before. She made her way to the cellar, her flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The cellar was just as she had seen it in her dream, damp, cold, and filled with an unsettling energy. She searched the room, her eyes scanning every corner. Finally, she found it, a hidden compartment behind a loose brick in the wall. Inside, she found the box. It was cold to the touch, and the symbols etched on its surface seemed to writhe in the dim light. As she reached for it, the menacing figure appeared, its red eyes burning with rage. "You should have stayed away," it growled, its voice a guttural rasp. "Now you will share her fate." Act 3. Confrontation and Release. The menacing figure lunged, its shadowy form flickering, its red eyes burning with malevolent intent. Sarah, adrenaline surging, held the box aloft. A faint, ethereal light pulsed from within, pushing back the encroaching darkness. "Give it back," the figure roared, its voice a cacophony of distorted whispers. "It's mine." Sarah, remembering Eliza's words, understood. The box wasn't just an object. It was a prison, a vessel holding Eliza's trapped soul. The figure, she realized, wasn't a ghost at all, but something darker, something that had stolen Eliza's life and bound her to this place. "You stole her life," Sarah cried, her voice trembling but firm. "You won't keep her trapped here anymore." The figure snarled, its form shifting, becoming more monstrous. It lunged again, its claws reaching for the box, but Sarah dodged, her movements fueled by a desperate resolve. She remembered the symbols etched on the box, the ones she had seen in her dream. She knew they were a key, a way to release Eliza. With trembling hands, she began to trace the symbols, her fingers guided by an unseen force. As she completed the final symbol, a blinding light erupted from the box, filling the cellar with an otherworldly glow. The figure shrieked, its form dissolving into wisps of shadow. Eliza appeared, her form radiant, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice like a gentle breeze. "You've set me free." The cellar began to shake, the walls crumbling, the very foundations of the house groaning. The connection between the figure and the house, the source of its power, was broken. "You have to leave," Eliza said, her voice urgent. "This place is collapsing." Sarah, grabbing the box, now empty and harmless, fled the cellar, Eliza's ethereal form guiding her through the crumbling house. She burst through the front door just as the house imploded, collapsing into a pile of rubble. Sarah stood there, panting, the dust settling around her. The night was quiet, the air still. The feeling of dread, the oppressive weight that had hung over her, was gone. She looked at the empty box in her hands, then at the ruins of her former home. She knew she could never return, but she also knew that she had done the right thing. She had freed Eliza, and in doing so, she had freed herself. The next morning, Sarah left town, leaving behind the secrets of 1313 Elm Street. She carried with her the memory of Eliza, a reminder that even in the darkest of places, hope and courage could prevail. And she carried with her the knowledge that sometimes the most terrifying hauntings are not those of ghosts, but those of the living, driven by greed and malice.